Have you ever paused for a moment, not just to rest, but to really listen? Not to the noise around you, but to the silence within. That faint pull in your chest, that whisper you've been ignoring. What if it's not just a feeling? What if it's your soul calling? We live in a world that rewards noise. The more you speak, the more you achieve. The faster you move, the more successful you appear. But beneath all of that, in the spaces no one sees, many of us are quietly unraveling. Especially women. Especially those who've spent years being everything to every partner, mother, achiever, caretaker, but not once, not truly, being themselves. You go through the motions, perform the roles, check the boxes. But late at night, when it's just you and the ceiling, do you ever wonder, whose life is this? Am I living for myself, or for the expectations tied to my name? Who defined the shape of the life I now inhabit? Carl Jung believed that the soul does not shout, it whispers. And when we don't listen, when we silence it with busyness, with achievement, with relationships that only fill the surface but not the depth, that soul retreats, not in anger, in patience. It waits, but the longer you ignore it, the louder the discomfort grows. It starts subtly, a lingering sense that something's missing. Not a person, not a job, something deeper. A feeling like you're living just slightly outside of yourself, like the woman in the mirror isn't quite who you remember. That's not madness. That's the moment your soul begins to rise. Not in protest, but in invitation. You may feel this most during transitions after a breakup, during career shifts, when the children leave home, or in the quiet that follows burnout. These moments are not accidents. They're ruptures in the routine. Cracks where truth begins to leak in. The soul does not operate on the logic of the mind. It doesn't care for status or perfection. It only asks for one thing: presence. And when it doesn't get it, it doesn't scream. It withdraws. That's why you might feel numb, disconnected, even hollow. It's not that something is wrong with you, it's that you've been living without yourself. Jung called this disconnection the beginning of the shadow. The part of you that contains all you've denied: your needs, your truth, your pain, your longings. It's also where your soul hides, waiting for you to come back. This isn't a spiritual cliché. This is psychology at its most raw. You are not broken. You are buried. Think about the last time you were truly still, not distracted, not scrolling, not fixing anything, just still. Did you feel that ache, that weight in your chest that had no name? That is your soul, trying to reach you through the static. And the tragedy is not that you feel this way. The tragedy would be pretending you don't. The world taught you to prioritize others, to perform worthiness. But your soul never signed that contract. It was always here, quietly observing, waiting for the moment you would finally turn inward, not to analyze, but to remember. That remembering often begins with a mirror. Not just any mirror, but a metaphorical one. A moment of unbearable honesty. A question that hits too close to home. A line in a book that leaves you breathless. A dream that feels more real than waking life. These are not coincidences. They're messages, fragments, clues. You may have dismissed them as just emotions, just hormones, just a phase. But deep down, something sacred is happening. Your soul is trying to tell you, there's more. There's always been more. You weren't meant to live numb. You weren't made to shrink. You weren't created to survive your life. You were meant to inhabit it fully, wildly, soulfully. And here's the truth. The first time you hear that call, it doesn't feel like a miracle. It feels like discomfort, like confusion, like grief for the years you lost, not knowing what was missing. That's okay. That grief is sacred. It means you're ready. Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But before you become, you must return to the parts of you that have been silenced, exiled, minimized. You must reclaim the voice that was once soft, hesitant, hidden under responsibility and performance. And this isn't a one-time revelation. It's a journey. A slow, sacred, uncomfortable walk back into yourself. The process Jung called individuation, the lifelong task of becoming whole. This is the first step. Listening. Not to the world, not to the noise, but to that quiet hum within the part of you that's always known, even when you didn't. So if something in you stirred while reading this, if your chest feels tight or your eyes feel heavy, that's not coincidence. That's the soul knocking gently, asking, are you ready to come home? Because the woman you were before you belonged to everyone else. She's still in there waiting for you. And this moment right, here is the beginning of her return. The mind is a master of illusion. It convinces you that your calendar is your compass, that your value lies in how much you can produce, how well you can perform, how seamlessly you can maintain the image the world has projected onto you. It whispers that everything is finny as long as you're achieving, as long as you're needed, as long as the applause doesn't stop. But beneath that surface lies a truth so uncomfortable. Most people never dare to face it. You might be living a life that looks perfect, but feels empty. You were taught to succeed. You were encouraged to stay busy. You were never taught how to listen to yourself. That's where the lie begins. The mind, as brilliant as it is, has one fatal flaw: it believes in control. It creates elaborate systems, routines, identities, and roles to keep you safe from chaos. But in doing so, it often builds a cage made of perfectly logical reasons. I can't slow down right now. I have too much on my plate. My family needs me. My job depends on me. I'm okay, really. It's just stress. What if it's not just stress? What if it's your soul trying to scream through the cracks? Carl Jung believed that the parts of us we refuse to face don't disappear. They don't dissolve. They go underground, into the unconscious, into what he called the shadow. And what is the shadow, really? It's not evil. It's not dangerous. It's the part of you that contains every truth you were told was too inconvenient, too intense, too much. Your desires, your fears, your voice, your essence. Everything that was once alive in you, but made others uncomfortable, that became your shadow. Your mind helped put it there. It did so to protect you, to help you function, to make you fit in, but now it's keeping you from your wholeness. Think about the ways your mind distracts you from yourself. You drown in your to-do list. You scroll endlessly. You over-explain, over-give, overachieve. You fill every silence. You say yes when you mean no. And then, in the quiet moments, you feel something breaking down, something aching. But your mind rushes in again with logic. You're tired. You'll feel better tomorrow. Don't be ungrateful. You have so much to be thankful for. And yes, you do. But gratitude doesn't cancel out the soul's longing. Success doesn't silence the ache for authenticity. This is how the mind keeps you disconnected, by convincing you that discomfort is wrong, that questioning is dangerous, that slowing down is failure. But the truth is this: discomfort is not your enemy. It's your soul's first language. It speaks in tension, in longing, in resistance. And when you ignore that, you don't become more peaceful. You become numb. We live in a world that glorifies numbness. As long as you look fine, as long as you meet the metrics, as long as you smile in photos, no one asks what's dying inside of you, not even you. But you can't outrun your soul. No amount of success can replace the quiet, knowing that you've abandoned yourself somewhere along the way, that you traded your truth for acceptance, your voice for harmony, your stillness for productivity. And now, the weight is catching up. There's a reason you feel exhausted after conversations where you pretend. There's a reason certain rooms drain you. There's a reason joy feels distant, like something you used to touch but no longer remember how. The reason is not weakness. The reason is disconnection. From your center, from your truth, from the shadow you've tried so hard to keep hidden. But here's the paradox. The shadow is not trying to hurt you. It's trying to lead you home. Every breakdown you've experienced, every moment of panic, rage, numbness is not the mind malfunctioning. It's the soul rebelling. It's the part of you that remembers what it's like to be whole, trying to pull you out of the life you were never meant to settle for. But the mind resists. Of course it does. It's terrified of not knowing, of losing the script, of having to face truths that may change everything. And it will change everything. When you begin to integrate the shadow, the mind no longer gets to run the show unchecked. You start questioning your schedule, your relationships, your patterns. You start hearing the voice beneath the noise. And that voice doesn't speak in fear. It speaks in clarity. You start to realize that not every demand is worth your time. That not every role you've played is who you truly are. That not every version of you that others love is one you want to keep. This is the terrifying beauty of awakening. Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So many people are living lives that were chosen by their programming, not by their presence. And the tragedy isn't just that they don't know it. The tragedy is that they defend it. They protect the very systems that are draining them. Because facing the truth would mean rewriting the story. But if you're here, reading this, you already know. You've felt it. That flicker of recognition, that tiny rupture in the script, that quiet voice saying, "This isn't it." Don't ignore that voice. Don't rationalize it away. Don't let your mind silence your soul with logic dressed as loyalty. You're not meant to be a performance. You're not here to keep everyone else comfortable while you slowly disappear. You are not an asset to be managed. You are a soul to be honored. And the first step toward honoring it is this. Be willing to see what you've buried. Be willing to question what you've accepted. Be willing to feel what you've numbed. The mind will fight back. It will tell you you're being dramatic, unstable, selfish. It will whisper that you're losing everything. But you're not losing. You're remembering. You're releasing. You're becoming. You are not here to survive your story. You are here to write it. And the real writing begins the moment you stop letting your mind speak over your soul. If this feels like something you've never said aloud but have always known deep inside it, and hold it in, leave a comment. Share what's stirred in you. You might find that the first step toward hearing your own truth is saying it out loud. There is a moment, quiet, inconvenient, almost imperceptible. You wake up at 2:17 a.m. The room is still, but your chest is not. Your breath is shallow, your body calm. But your soul, trembling. There are no answers, only water. You feel tears falling and you don't know why. There's no fight, no heartbreak, no visible wound. And yet, you feel broken. That is the moment the soul begins to rise, not as a wave of clarity, not as peace, but as unrest. Gentle at first, then persistent, then all-consuming. You try to brush it off. It's just exhaustion, hormones, a bad dream. But deep down you know, something has shifted. You can't name it, but you can't deny it. You feel disconnected from your job, your friends, your reflection, from everything that once made sense. You go through the motions. You answer messages. You smile. You cook. You sleep. But the thread that once held you together is loosening. And nothing you do can pull it back. There's a fog, a haunting, not loud enough to panic, but just strong enough to remind you that you are not where you belong. Not in this life. Not in this story. Not in this version of yourself. You look around and nothing has changed. But inside, everything has. It begins as a quiet refusal, a resistance to things you used to accept. The music you loved no longer stirs you. Conversations feel hollow. You sit in a room full of people and feel completely alone. You hear yourself laugh and wonder who it belongs to. There is an ache, deep and persistent, a homesickness for something you can't describe. This is not depression, not failure, not madness. This is the soul's revolt, the beginning of your unbecoming. Carl Jung said, "Everything we deny becomes fate." This is what happens when you deny your truth for too long. It doesn't go away. It waits. And when the time comes, it breaks through every defense. What you're feeling is not weakness. It is the unraveling of everything false. There is a name for this. In spiritual tradition, It is called the dark night of the soul, a phase where every certainty collapses, every mask slips, every illusion burns. You start to see through everything, the expectations you've carried, the roles you've performed, the lies you've called love, the dreams that were never really yours. And suddenly, you can't go back. You try. God knows you try. You force yourself into the old routines, the old rhythm, the old self. But something inside you resists. Fiercely, unforgivingly. You're not who you were, and pretending to be is killing you. You begin to question everything. What am I doing here? Why do I keep giving to people who don't see me? Why am I afraid of being alone? Why have I built a life that looks full but feels empty? The answers don't come right away. Sometimes they don't come at all. But the questions, they don't leave you. You stop finding comfort in comfort. You stop pretending that stability is the same as peace. You realize you've been asleep, not in body, but in soul. And now, you're waking up. Waking up doesn't feel like joy, at least not at first. It feels like loss, like mourning, like losing a version of yourself that everyone else loved, but you outgrew long ago. You cry for the self you abandoned, for the dreams you gave up, for the silence you swallowed, for the life you could have lived if you had chosen yourself sooner. But even in the ache, there is something else. A quiet strength, a knowing, a flicker. You begin to crave truth. Real conversations, raw connection, depth, stillness, meaning. You start listening more, speaking less, moving slower, feeling more. There's no map, only intuition. There's no timeline, only trust. There's no applause, only integrity. You are not lost. You are shedding. You are not broken. You are becoming. And yes, it's lonely here. Few will understand. Many will ask, what's wrong? Few will hear what's real. Because this journey doesn't look like success. It looks like solitude. It looks like falling apart. It looks like nothing from the outside. But inside, a revolution is underway. The mind resists. Of course it does. It tells you this is dangerous. It begs you to return to who you were. But you've tasted something else now. Something raw, something real. You've seen yourself stripped of performance, expectation, and fear. And you can't unsee it. There will be nights when you want to give up, when you wish you had never started, when the longing is too heavy, the silence too loud, the emptiness too unbearable. But remember this. This is not your undoing. This is your initiation. Your soul is not here to be silent. It's here to be sovereign. And sovereignty is born in the fire of surrender. Let everything fall. Let everything burn. Let everything go that no longer fits the shape of who you're becoming. Because on the other side of this unraveling, you will not find your old life. You will find yourself. So, if this is where you are, on the floor, in the dark, with no clear way forward, don't turn back. You are not breaking down. You are breaking open. You are not dying. You are being reborn. And if you need to hear it, you are not alone. This journey is brutal. It is sacred. It is necessary. And it is yours. So breathe. Feel. Stay. If you're here, this deep into the truth, let it be known. Leave a word, a sentence, a whisper. Let it be the first time you don't run from what you feel. Because this isn't a crisis, it's a beginning. And sometimes the beginning comes disguised as collapse. There comes a moment quiet and unceremonious when something inside you says, enough, not with anger, not with fear, but with clarity. You no longer want to perform, to prove, to please. You no longer want to be a character in someone else's script, even if that script made you feel safe. You want to live, not exist, not function, not survive, but live fully, intentionally, soulfully. This is the beginning of awakening, not the mystical kind, not always, but the grounded, visceral awakening where you begin to reclaim every part of yourself you once gave away to be loved, accepted, useful. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." And now, you've looked long enough. Outward, toward validation, toward approval, toward belonging. But now it's time to return. Inward, to the place you abandoned in order to be everything to everyone, to the home that never left, even when you did. And as you return, slowly, you begin to see life not as something that happens to you, but something you shape with your presence. Your choice. Your truth. The world may not change, but the way you walk through it does. You begin to notice the moments that used to rush past you, the way the morning light dances on the floor, the breath that comes a little deeper when you're not running, the conversation that feels like nourishment instead of obligation. You begin to choose differently. Not because you're better, but because you're finally aligned. You stop showing up where your soul goes quiet. You stop saying yes when your body says no. You stop negotiating with people who only love the version of you that hides your power. You begin to honor yourself in ways that once felt impossible. This is not about becoming someone new. This is about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. This is individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole. Not perfect, not polished, but whole. It's not glamorous, it's not always graceful, but it's real. And real will always be more powerful than performance. You may still walk alone, but it no longer feels like isolation. It feels like freedom. Solitude no longer means something's missing. It means space to breathe, to feel, to choose. You walk with yourself, and that becomes enough. Your soul stops whispering. It starts speaking clearly, not in words, but in instinct, in resonance, in the unmistakable feeling of, "This is mine," or "This is not." You don't need to explain your choices anymore. They explain themselves. The people who see you will understand. The ones who don't were never meant to. You begin to live not in reaction but in response. You begin to create not from urgency but from depth. You begin to love not from lack but from wholeness. This is the life that awaits you when you stop running from yourself. You may still stumble, you may still doubt, but now your feet are planted on your own path, and there is no greater peace than knowing you're walking a life that belongs to you. This is what happens when the soul awakens. It doesn't scream, it doesn't demand. It simply begins to lead. You will lose things, people, versions of yourself that once kept you safe. But what you gain is truth, stillness, power, purpose, and most importantly, you gain you. The version of you who no longer flinches under silence, who no longer shrinks under pressure, who no longer negotiates with her own intuition just to be palatable. She is not an idea. She is real. She is becoming. And she is yours. If you've made it this far, if you're still here, perhaps your soul has already begun to speak. And if it has, don't rush this moment. Don't run from it. Stay here, with yourself, with this truth, with this breath, because this is not the end of your old life. It is the beginning of the one you were born to choose. If something inside you is stirring, if you feel like this message found you at exactly the right time, let it be known. Leave a sign, a word, a flame. Let this be the moment you stop apologizing for choosing yourself. Let this be the moment you stop abandoning your truth to make others comfortable. Let this be the moment you decide to live not someone else's life but your own.